Alright, I am back with another Destiny video, and Evie is getting in position for... Nope, she's gonna go sit on the other side of the couch. So, we'll see if she migrates back over by the time I finish here. I do not actually want to talk about Season of the Chosen today. I think I've done all kind of the previewing I can at this point based on what we know. I could do some more speculation about what's to come. Maybe I'll do that in a different video, but today something is kind of pulling on me and I wanted to get it out there before Chosen does arrive, and then there's really nothing else to talk about except Chosen. One thing that's come up as Season of the Chosen has been revealed is that we are fighting the Cabal again, and it's been a little while since we fought the Cabal in a season. I don't even really remember when the last Cabal-focused season was, honestly, but it's been a bit. But obviously they were like the main antagonists of the Red War. They've shown up time and time again. We fought the Red Legion, like 50 million times. Oh, it's probably the Almighty season where they took over the Almighty and were going to crash it into us and stuff. Now, technically, we are getting new Cabal. This isn't remnants of the Red Legion. This is Caiatl's Legion. And Caiatl's Legion? I don't know what I'm going to say. Caiatl? I think it's Caiatl. We'll do that. And the problem is, though, Caiatl looks cool, and she has her little, Persian armor get up and stuff, and her new Cabal enemies may look, a little different and may have their little Caiatl flair to them. We are still fundamentally fighting the Cabal again, and this time, unlike Beyond Light, which introduced at least the Wyvern and the Brig to Fallen and Vex, we do not have any sort of giant new Cabal units from what we can tell. And it's just kind of the Cabal as usual. It doesn't really matter that it's a new faction of Cabal. And the problem is you can kind of replace Cabal with any race in Destiny at this point, that we are, 6-7 years in now. And it just feels like this never-ending loop between the same 6 races over and over again, especially Hive, Vex, Fallen, and Cabal. Those are the main 4. And then there's some debate, but I would count Taken and Scorn as new races. I know Taken are just they're physical reskins of existing races, but at least they have much different fight mechanics, and they are considered a different race for bounty purposes and strike purposes and things like that. And then Scorn are technically Fallen, but they are all attacked differently, and even though their animations are kind of rigged on existing things, I think Abominations are technically ogres, just reshaped a little bit, things like that. They're still, I would consider them a new race. But that was in Forsaken 2 years ago now, and we have not seen another new race since, and we've gotten really no indication that we are going to see a new race of enemies in Destiny again. This kind of came up when Arrivals hit, I think. Everyone has been, we have been expecting the Darkness to arrive for years and years and years now, since Destiny 1, before Bungie even knew what the Darkness was, and they had to rewrite it to kind of come up with something. And we saw the Pyramid Ship and Shadowkeep, and we met the Darkness, which showed up as a shadow clone of ourselves. There's the big spooky statue that's covered in cloth that also shows up in DSC, and that's kind of been it. So Season of Arrivals came, the Pyramids showed up, they sent out a bunch of little mini pyramids and their little shards and stuff everywhere, but that was it. There are no actual enemies, and we've learned since that the Darkness, the Pyramids, are pretty much just paracausal entities in and of themselves, and that's the same thing that the Traveler is. The Traveler is just a giant orb that is sort of alive in and of itself. It can communicate with us, it can give us powers, it can move and do things, but it's not containing a secret race of, Traveler species inside of it or anything like that. Evie, are you going to start chewing on something very loud? Because that might not work for this video. See how it goes. But there might be a quick cut here as I take away Evie's chewing horn, so that doesn't get picked up on the audio for the whole video. The other problem is that, so then this leads into the Darkness, where the Darkness are all paracausal ships, and they talk to us. They talk to us a lot more than the Traveler does. They, gave us powers too. They gave us Darkness powers, and they have a pretty, more forceful agenda where they're pretty obviously like trying to corrupt us to some extent, but we don't really know what their aim is other than maybe going after the Traveler. They just kind of wiped 4 of our worlds off the map completely. Yet we're still talking to them all the time. We're using their powers and stuff like that. But what did not happen is what everyone thought would happen, is that these pyramid ship would show up and the little ramps would come down, and then a whole new enemy race would come out, and we would be fighting the first truly new enemy race since Fallen Vex, Hive, and Cabal. And that was at one point called the Veil. That was the big rumor for a long time, that the Veil were going to be like the race of darkness people. But and we've gone inside the darkness ships, and they have like hallways and passages, and they look like they should be occupied by people or creatures or something, but that has not happened. And it really is seeming unlikely that we are going to reach a point where all of a sudden the doors are going to open on the pyramids, and there's going to be a new race of things that come out. Like we are kind of the Travelers people, the darkness is just trying to make us and the Fallen and maybe other races in the future its own kind of pawns. So it's like 2 godlike entities battling rather than this was an invading force of enemies, coming to take over our system. And like they still might do that, but they're doing that as like sentient pyramid objects that are huge, not like sending out a whole new race of people. They're just conscripting people. They conscripted the Vex when they first arrived to kind of do their bidding, and then the Fallen, and as a Beyond Light, they gave them stasis powers, and as a cost of their souls or whatever it costs to use stasis, and then they used it on us too, and we're wrestling within ourselves to fight fight between the light and dark and all that stuff. What this has not done is give us another race, and this just seems like something that I think Destiny needs more than anything at this point, in a way to kind of break the monotony of this cycle of like, okay, it's a Cabal season, like next season. Okay, it's a Vex season, like expansion. Okay, it's the Witch Queen. Okay, that's a Hive expansion, like very clearly. And it's kind of never ending. I still would like. I think there are 2 options for like a fully new race of enemies here. I think you can do something totally external, like the Veil, and just write it so yeah, actually the darkness is a outside invading race, and they have formed their own army that are an entirely new race of enemies that are coming to attack us, and that's a new force that we have to deal with for the indefinite future, and then that slots into the rotation. Right now, I think it doesn't really work with the 2 most recent races, the Taken and the Scorn. The Taken are just kind of thrown in whenever we need some sort of like darkness adjacent stand-in, and they're always pretty much related to Hive seasons because of the Ascendant Plane. Scorn were used like really heavily in Forsaken because of the nature that they were like these bottom feeding corrupted Fallen, but they don't really fit into the story anywhere else. So this is why we don't hardly ever see the Scorn come up again. There may be some hints that there might be some Scorn in this season, but I'm not going to think they're a huge presence. But like this is, they introduced them, but we barely ever see them except in that one strike everyone hates, and that's pretty much it. The other option besides a fully new race is I still think Bungie could figure out a way to do enemy guardians as an enemy race, and we would be fighting against our own essentially. Like this, we've seen this kind of in the dark future where the darkness so fully corrupts some guardians that they're just kind of lost completely. We've seen it in the past with warlords that had to be put down by guardians because they were evil. We've seen it with historical bad guys like Shin Malphur and people like that. And there's a couple villains throughout history. But and then the one that we actually fought that was actually like a villain in the game at the time was Uldren in Forsaken, and yet still we never really fought him. He got sucked up by a ascendant servitor essentially, and we fought that as the final boss. And like Bungie has just not really scripted it in a way that we can fight human awoken exo enemies. And I think that there is a lot of potential there to create a kind of AI-driven enemy class about, based on like corrupted guardians, whether that's like the criminal underground of the last city or something that's been, people that have been fully corrupted by the darkness or misusing the light. I've always thought that would be a very cool thing to explore, and we've never done it. I just think that this is something the game needs because we are 2 years after the Scorn, and we are, what, 4 years after kind of the base 4 races of Destiny, popped into existence. And I think at a certain point you got to expand more, especially in a game that's like this vast and this wide. And like, unless you're just going to add, 4 or 5 new units to each race or something to mix up combat that way, that's the only way I could kind of see getting around it. I don't think adding, 1 new unit to 2 races in a single expansion is worth it. Not worth it, but like is really solving the problem. Again, this is a bandwidth thing. I know, as we all know, like expansions have generally been getting smaller, seasons have generally been getting smaller. Bungie is incubating a number of projects that are not Destiny, so something like creating an entirely new race of enemies is very hard and would be a very tall order. And yet I still think it is something that should be prioritized, because they can make all the loot in the world, and yet if it still feels too much the same as like the past years and years and years, like I think that is a part of the reason where it's not as engaging. And I think it's a part of the reason, what are the most beloved expansions in Destiny history? It's the Taken King and Forsaken, pretty much. I mean, it depends on who you ask, but those are the top 2. And both of those introduced at least somewhat new races of enemies that were different to fight. And, the first time you met the Taken, or the first time you saw the Scorn, like it was a cool moment. And it created, the Taken King. Oryx himself was a very good villain. All the Scorn Barons were, I thought, very, well done, and Uldren leading them was cool. But since then, I mean, Shadowkeep was just pyramids sitting underground, driving hordes of Vex at us, essentially, that we've, that are covered in vines and things. That's about it. And then Beyond Light was, fallen captains wearing winter coats. Like a couple of them could use stasis. And Witch Queen, I'm sure, will be some sort of Savathun infused hive or something. And I can't see a new race coming with the Witch Queen, because it's the Witch Queen. It's Savathun, Queen of, darkness. So that's going to be obviously Hive and probably Taken. So that's not something I would expect for that expansion. This is just something that it's bothered me for a very long time, but now that we're past kind of the 2-year mark, and we're 2 expansions past Forsaken, and it's just not coming, and it doesn't even seem like it'll be here by year 3 either. This is something that I really hope Bungie can refocus on at some point. And I don't know when I'll bring this up again, because we're about to launch into a new season, and it's more Cabal, but more Cabal just got me thinking about this rotation and how it's kind of just never ending. And I think it's part of the reason that the game can feel stale, because there is not really enough invested into kind of changing the things we fight outside of, boss encounters, raid encounters, like changing the mechanics that way. But I think we need a fully new race of enemies, and I'm going to hold out hope that that'll come someday, but I just don't know when that'll be. That's all I got for now. I might do, some more speculation on Chosen the next couple of days here before Tuesday. We have 2 days before Tuesday, so we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. The sound of my voice has made Evie pass out, so hopefully that is not indicative of you guys. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.